So I'm standing in the kitchen of my college dorm room, and I am panicking. I've got 8 people coming over in 20 minutes, and I don't have anything to feed them. See, I promised them a big pot of pho, the beloved Vietnamese beef noodle soup, and this should have been easy for me, like making a peanut butter sandwich. I had seen my mom make pho thousands of times growing up. The problem is, whatever I came up with didn't look anything like pho. It was this sad pot of gray beef water, oh God, it looked more like parboiled Martian. And I have some good friends, because they ate it anyway. But my God, I was so embarrassed. How could I call myself Vietnamese if I couldn't make the one dish that everyone knew us for? There were times when I felt really disconnected from my Vietnamese heritage, and this was one of them. See, I'm actually biracial. My dad is Jewish, my mom is Vietnamese. I grew up knowing a lot about Judaism. I had a bat mitzvah, I went to Hebrew school, I wasn't allowed to eat bacon. My Vietnamese side, though, all I really knew is that we dipped a lot of things in fish sauce. And I had a lot of uncles and aunties who might not have actually been my uncles and aunties, but they always stayed for dinner and drank a lot of Hennessy. That night in my dorm room, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went to the kitchen, I got a knife, I put it under my pillow, and I went to sleep. Let me explain. When I was growing up, my mom actually used to sleep with a knife under her pillow, and she told me it was to scare away Vietnamese ghosts and evil spirits. 12-year-old me was fascinated, so I started doing the same thing. Now, I didn't sleep with a machete under my pillow like my mom. I opted for a more sensible butter knife, but this knife was a portal to a whole other world. It was a way to feel connected to my identity in a way that I otherwise didn't feel I had access to. Eventually, I was discovered. But my mom let it slide. She didn't care that I was sleeping with a knife under my pillow, as long as it wasn't one of her good steak knives. It actually became something of a tradition between my mom and I. Whenever I'd come home from college, she'd leave a knife for me under the pillow. A few years later, I'm a brand new stand-up comic, and I knew I didn't want to talk about typical stand-up comic things, my dating horror stories or my unsolicited thoughts on above-ground pools. I love those jokes, but they're not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to joke about things that mattered to me, stories from my life. And I knew I wanted to write about this pillow knife. I workshopped this joke for months. I performed it in every dingy basement in the greater Boston area. I felt like it was finally ready, and I wanted to show it to my mom. She watches a video of me performing the joke, and she laughed. But then she very quickly changed the subject to, "Why are you wasting time with stand-up comedy? Where are my grandchildren?" That night, I'm sleeping at my parents' house. I go upstairs to bed. I reach under the pillow. No knife. I fly downstairs. "Mom, where's the knife?" "Oh, well, honey, I didn't think you liked it. I thought you were embarrassed of it, because of that joke you told." I was devastated. I wrote that joke for her, but in that moment, I realized I had aimed my joke at the wrong target. Instead of aiming at myself, I pointed it at my mom, at my culture. So as painful as it was, that night, I got to work, scrapped the whole thing, and rewrote it. More months of testing, more dingy basements. I wanted my mom to see the joke again. I actually invited her to a show. I get on stage. I see my mom in the audience. I start to tell the joke. It went like this. When I was growing up, my mom let me sleep with a knife under my pillow to scare away murderous Vietnamese ghosts and all of my friends. At this point, I look out into the audience. I see my mom laughing. I keep going with the joke. My mom actually called me the other night, and she was in a full panic, and she was like, "Stephanie, are you still sleeping with your ghost knife?" And I was like, "Yeah, obviously." I'm not trying to die. And she said, good, because Steph, I had a vision that there was this ghost man who was trying to abduct you and make you his ghost wife. I know. Isn't that crazy? Someone wants to marry me? I don't know why I'm trying to scare him. I need to trap him, okay? Forget the knife. Tonight, under my pillow, you're gonna see Heineken, Sports Illustrated, and half a sandwich, all right? At this point, I finish the joke. I look out into the audience. My mom is laughing. That night, I slept at my parents' house. I go upstairs, I reach under the pillow, the knife is back. And it wasn't just a butter knife, y'all, it was a steak knife. I had graduated. Knives are typically intended to keep people and ghosts at a distance. But in my case, a knife helped me feel closer to my mom, closer to feeling Vietnamese, and closer to feeling like enough. Thank you.